Good morning. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and rocking with us for another edition of the Morning Breeze, man. Always rocking with you guys, as always, man. Outside of me, I got my guy, Mr. Media himself, Jordan JC, in the building. Pay no attention to that daily at 7. Nah, I'm just playing, man. I'm just playing. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Oh, man. I said, with the new baby, with everything going on, there's going to be some days where the schedule don't make sense. Today is one of them days. Today is one of them days. But we got to hear from Caleb Williams on the St. Brown podcast. And so I had to come on here and talk about what we heard from our young quarterback. Because I will say this, ladies and gentlemen, when you hear his assessment and his breakdown of the kind of coach that he wants, certainly sounds like Ben Johnson. Certainly sounds like Ben Johnson. Certainly sounds like he is looking for the offensive mind that's going to change things for him for a long time. We'll talk about that and more on today's episode of The Morning Breeze. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. The date is 1/15/2025. It's 9:16 in the morning. This still counts as The Morning Breeze. But I will say this baby kicking my butt. Let's go. Let's go. Big vibes. We up. We live. Oh, God. We get it. We hit it. Everybody want to see it, man. Don't let me get started now. Don't let me get started now. We get the vibe going. We let the vibe get going, dog. Stop playing with us, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do.
Push the button. Come on. Push the button. Come on, push the button.
Yeah, come on, push the button.
You heard what she said.
Y'all heard what Sue Young said. Push the button, hit that like button, man. Stop playing around with us. A lot of people come in here, just enjoy the watch, but don't hit the like button. So do us a favor. Hit the button. It's a phenomenal button. Great button. Let's start it off with this. I thought, listen, there's a lot from the St. Brown's podcast that you can skip over. There was a lot of different conversations there that if you wanted to get to the part that most Bears fans are going to care about, you can skip the last 15 minutes of the episode. But I did think that it was a solid episode. Caleb Williams went on there, talked about a bunch of different things, talked about life in college, talked about how he still doesn't get nervous, which I absolutely love the fact that he's like, look, I don't get nervous because I can control the game. It may not always go my way, but I'm not sitting here nervous. You know what I mean? I'm not nervous, are you? We'll see about that. But what he said about his pick for the Chicago Bears' next head coach, I thought was very telling, and maybe even a little, I dropped this on there as well, maybe even a little Flus shot in there, maybe a little Flus chair shot across the head there. He started off by saying this. When asked about what kind of head coach he would want, he said, I want a strong-minded, a leader of men. Listen, Caleb Williams is even in on leader of men. Somebody take me out. I think that is a cool thing about what y'all have over there in Detroit. They went on further to ask him about, do you feel like you want your coach to be an offensive-minded coach? And he said, selfishly, I want an offensive-minded guy so I can build with him and be with that coach for the next 19, 17, 15 years. And so I can also learn and grow and things like that from him. And what he has seen and what he has gone through with maybe other QBs, he has been around. So that is selfishly. But if we got an overall, grand scheme coach and is good with time management, there's the chair shot, good with the clock, chair shot, good with helping control the game, chair shot, just because it's a big factor, obviously. And in our game that we played the first time at y'all's place, big factor is being able to control the clock, chair shot, and then helping find the right guy to win championships. I mean, that's the only goal that I have for my NFL career, is to go win a championship, and championships start with one. Listen, as a Bears fan, when you hear that, first off, I love the fact that he wants championships, but woof, talk about the chair shots of a foul over Matt Eberflus's head. I'm not mad at it. Hey, Flus, how do you feel about that? Listen, it certainly sounds to me like he wants that offensive-minded guy. When you watch the podcast, when he talks about Ben Johnson, he talks about the situation that they have over in Detroit as well. And there's kind of this moment where Amon-Ra even laughs. He's like, do you want Ben Johnson? He's like, well, I mean, whoever we get is kind of the right guy. And he does like this side-eye smirk. And Amon-Ra sees it, calls him out on. He's like, listen, first off, Amon-Ra the entire time is like, you're trying to take my coach, bro. Like, I don't want you to take my coach. I'm saying the worst things about you that I possibly can to Ben Johnson. I'm also saying the worst things to everybody who will listen about Ben Johnson, because I don't want him to leave. But when you see Caleb Williams on the podcast, gives us a little smirk, a little side eye, Amon-Ra calls him out on it, and he does the same thing, kind of like when he brings up, whatever coach comes in here, I'll be able to work with him. Does the same thing again. He's very conscious. He's very conscious of the public perception. He's very conscious of people are going to take what I say in this podcast and they're going to run with it. So I have to make sure that I'm doing things evenly here. And when Amon-Ra called him out, he had to bring up, but another coach would be fine, and hit the little side eye there. To me, I think that this is clearly telling the Chicago Bears, listen, this is the guy I want. Find a way to get it done. I'll work with whoever you bring in here. That's going to be the case no matter what. I am still an employee. But get me the guy that I want in Ben Johnson. And I mean, listen, you saw him get catfished. He was excited about Ben. You saw him get, he's like, let's work, let's do this, let's get this done. But to me, the fact that you bring in a guy who, number one, is the top candidate on the market for the Chicago Bears, that does something. But that Caleb Williams, and I think he said this best, can grow with offensively over the next few years. You see what he's done offensively in his time in Detroit. I mean, not only have they been one of the best defenses in the NFL overall, but first in points per game this season, rushing yards per game 146.4. That's sixth best in the NFL. Passing yards per game at 277.5, a second in the NFL. This Lions offense has been dominant, and it starts with two things. Number one, it starts with those dogs up front, and number two, it starts with the quarterback being able to understand a system that has been made easy for him. And I think that's the one thing that people always hold against Jared Goff, where for me, that's exactly what I want my quarterback to walk into. That's exactly what I want my quarterback to have to deal with. Even when we bring up Mike McCarthy, right? They talk about, I said this yesterday, Yurko read Aaron Rodgers' book, and in that book, Aaron Rodgers discusses how there's a lot of stuff pre-snap that you have to figure out. There's a lot of stuff early on before the snap happens that you have to identify and you have to figure out. But once you learn that part of things, you're golden. Once you figure all of that out, you're golden, because now the game is made easy for you. I want an offensive coordinator who can come in and make the game easy for my quarterback. That's the only thing that I'm looking to have happen here in Chicago, because everything that we have talked about, all the pieces that we brought in, it seems like you still have found ways to make things difficult for your young quarterback. You've still found ways to put him behind a bad offensive line. You've still found ways to call a scheme that has guys standing within 3 feet of each other. You've still found ways to put really talented players, and this is the one thing that I say about the Chicago Bears this season, put really talented players in a bad position. I look at this offense, and there's no way you can't say there's not talent on it. It's impossible. It's a talented offense through and through. You've got Keenan Allen, and Caleb Williams even said as much. I thought this was very interesting when asked about the best player you've ever played with. Keenan Allen, first name off. That tells you kind of what he is in the room, and I want to talk about that as well. But getting guys that make things easy for guys like Keenan Allen, for guys like DJ Moore, for guys like Roma Dunze, for guys like Cole Kmet. Heck, DeAndre Swift, unfortunately, is going to be here. Let's make it easy for him. And we saw what DeAndre Swift was able to do with Ben Johnson. He had good work with Ben Johnson. You understand that if you get a guy in here that makes your quarterback's life easy, that was what Shane Waldron was supposed to do. There's nothing to complain about. There's nothing at that point where you can go, oh, well, how does he work with Caleb? How does he's making his life easy. How do I know that that's something that he should be able to do? Because he did it with Jared Goff in not a great situation. Detroit wasn't always this Detroit. Detroit wasn't always this team. Remember, the first couple of years of Detroit was bad. And Jared Goff was still playing well, and everybody went, well, he's just a mid guy, and so it's not all that. 100% he was. 100% he was. You get the offensive line, you get an Amon-Ra St. Brown, you add those pieces in there, and now you're making your quarterback's life easy. Now you can go out and spend money or spend picks on guys that like a Jahmyr Gibbs or like a David Montgomery, who somehow is coming back. How the heck is he coming back? He got hurt, 5 weeks ago? How is he coming back right now? Like that's insane to me that he's going to be playing in this divisional round. I don't know if you guys saw that, but no, man, listen, at the end of the day, hearing Caleb Williams be so vocal about the type of head coach that he wants, to me, it sounds like he's talking literally about a Ben Johnson type of player type of coach coming in here. I think that that is something for me that does get me excited, because number one, it tells you that he understands the trajectory of his career is tied to this next head coach. Get me the guy that's going to make my life easy. Get me the guy that's going to run an offense that's going to make things easier for my wide receivers. But we'll see what ends up happening here with the Bears. We know what kind of moves they like to make. I keep saying this, bro. I keep saying this. You hear what Caleb Williams says. You hear what the fans say. You hear, all of these things around how the Bears felt about. I don't know if you guys heard this yesterday with Ben Johnson's interview. David Kaplan talked about how he's made calls to people that are up there in the building and are close to the situation with Ben Johnson, who are close with Ben Johnson, and basically saying that Ben Johnson blew away the interview. The Bears were enamored by him. Kevin Warren was enamored by him, that he did everything right, and that the Bears are very interested in bringing Ben Johnson here for that second interview, but they can't get him here until Ben Johnson's out of the playoffs. I don't know if he's going to be out, although I am picking Washington. I can't. Y'all know I'm anything Detroit. Get down with Detroit. You know what I mean? I'm anything Detroit. I'm out. I'm tapped out. I'm done. But to me, looking at the fact that he's blown the interview away, that he's impressed Ryan Poles, that he was impressed by what the Bears have going on here, that he felt like the structure questions and things like that were answered, and that he can feel comfortable coming to this team. Those are things that make you feel better. Those are things that make you feel like, okay, maybe there's a chance to actually go out and take the biggest swing. And listen, Ben Johnson may be Matt Nagy. Ben Johnson may be, I don't know, throw it Adam Gase. Ben Johnson may be Josh McDaniels. Ben Johnson may be, throw whatever name out there you want to throw out there. But Ben Johnson is the biggest swing that you can take, and I don't know if Ryan Poles can afford not to take the biggest swing that he can take. We've talked about that a couple of times on the show. How much leeway is Ryan Poles going to have to take a chance? Ben Johnson's a chance. You're taking a chance. It may not work out the way you want it to work out. It may not. It may end up in one of these other offensive situations. He doesn't have time not to be winning. He's got to be in a win now mode right now. And I'm saying like just continuing to get better and then eventually the playoffs here, right? I said, listen, next year expectations should be 8 or 9 games because you're going to address a lot this offseason, hopefully. A lot of money available. $80 million available if you let Keenan Allen walk. I want to talk about that before we get up out of here. But even with all that being said, right, it feels like everything is perfect based on what we're hearing. Will you Bears this up? Ryan Poles, will you Bears this up? That's the big question here. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave the 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Appreciate y'all for showing love, man. Hey, we got to get back into this too. We've kind of slowed up because we be focused on this mother. Over 100 in the chat, over 200 in the chat, over 300 in the chat, over 400 in the chat. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love, man. Let's keep this thing moving along, because the one thing that Caleb Williams did say today that I guess for me, logically, I understand it. Logically, I understand it. Money wise, I think you have to move on from Keenan Allen. I think that's the only option that you have. You have $80 million. Keenan Allen clearly was not the same guy that he has been this year. But Caleb Williams today on the podcast said that Keenan Allen is the best player that he's ever played with. When I talked with Chris Beatty up at Hallis Hall, who is now taking over as the offensive coordinator, who was the wide receivers coach, all those things, right? When you talk with Chris Beatty up there, he talks about Keenan Allen as a second coach. He talks about Keenan Allen as a guy who goes into the meeting rooms and he's the one that's teaching. Keenan Allen, in fact, started having these meetings after practices or on off days where he's literally in there trying to teach the concepts to the wide receivers. Him and DJ Moore doing this together. Can you afford to move on from a guy that, number one, has had that much impact on your team as far as teaching young receivers and things like that, but also from a guy who Caleb Williams says is the best player that he's ever played with in his life? Now, I get it. One season in the NFL, you can't sit here and say that there's not going to be better players there. It could be Rome next season. It could be DJ next season, whatever it is. Can you afford to let that guy walk, though? And we know when Caleb needed to feel comfortable, especially in the middle of those games, he was going to Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen ended up being his safety blanket. The tough part of that is, and I've said this a couple of times, when you look at the receivers that are making money after behind Keenan Allen, I don't think that you can pay Keenan Allen less than what he's making right now. It would be very tough in my mind to convince Keenan Allen, hey, don't you want to be here on a team-friendly $14 million deal? When you look at the guys behind him, and I can still clearly say, give me Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen right now making $20 million. After him, you're talking Amari Cooper, $20 million, Chris Godwin, $20 million, Christian Kirk, 18, Jerry Jeudy, 17, give me Keenan, Tyler Lockett, 15, give me Keenan, Cortland Sutton, 13, give me Keenan, D-Hop, 13, maybe give me D-Hop. D-Hop been balling. Gabe Davis, give me Keenan, Darnell Mooney, give me Keenan, Alan Lazard making 11, give me Keenan, right? Like, it's tough for me to sell you on, hey, Keenan, don't you want to be here for Alan Lazard money? Hey, Keenan, don't you want to be here for Cortland Sutton money? There's an interesting idea. I would construct a Bobby Bonilla type of contract. What do you think? Anytime I can defer payments to a guy for what was Bobby Bonilla's 50 years? Yeah, sure. Now, if you do pay Keenan, you're talking about paying Keenan Allen, going out and paying some of the players that are your free agents this season. You got to make that money work as well, and going out and finding some offensive line help. I think that would be tough. I know that you're drafting offensive line, but you're probably coming in looking for, I would say, veteran center. I think that's going to be the most important thing to Caleb Williams' development next season, getting a veteran center in there. You see what it's done for Jaden Daniels in his rookie year. And then you can kind of fill out the rest of that offensive line with some of your rookies that you bring in. If you bring in a Will Campbell, if you bring in a Kelvin Banks, if you bring in, right, like some of those guys who you're going to take in the draft and try to work them in there. I think, though, that you need that veteran center in there to make him feel comfortable. For me, that kind of eliminates the Keenan Allen conversation. I understand for Caleb Williams, he's the best player that you've ever played with, but I can't sit here and pretend like he's more important than the dogs up front, or the hogs up front, I should say. I can't sit here and pretend that he's more important than whoever your starting center is going to be, then going and getting a Will Campbell, then possibly, and this is a conversation that we've had a couple of times, right? Are you to a point where you may have to re-sign Tevin Jenkins? Are you to a point where your offensive line is so bad you can't afford to let him leave the building? Now, I think you signed him to a ridiculously team-friendly deal, but are you at that point? You're not going to find 4 offensive linemen. You're not going to find 4 offensive linemen this offseason. And you need 4 offensive linemen. You need a left tackle, a left guard, a center, and a right guard. Maybe you can get away with Matt Pryor at right guard. Maybe. Matt Pryor his PFF numbers are solid. You didn't really talk about Matt Pryor a ton, but you know that he's not the ideal guy for you there. But you can get away with him. You throw him over at left guard, maybe you move to yeah, I'd probably rather have him at left guard because clearly he didn't help with Darnell. And then on top of that, we're sitting here talking about the offensive line for the offense and things you got to fix. You also got to find another edge rusher, which you should have been finding last season. You've also got to find another edge rusher. So you've got all of these things that you have to find in the trenches. That means to me, I don't have $20 million for Keenan Allen. That means I don't have the money to retain Keenan Allen here. On top of the fact that I'm able to go out there and get the compensatory pick, I'm going to have to say goodbye to Keenan Allen in that sense. Over 500 in the chat. 500. Shout out to everybody over on the YouTube side. Shout out to everybody over on Twitter as well. 334 on the YouTube side, 200 on the Twitter side, man. Appreciate y'all for showing love. To me, if you're talking about paying a wide receiver, we're having the wrong conversation this offseason. We're having the wrong conversation this offseason. We're having the same conversation that put us in this position with our quarterback yet again, who's a different quarterback. Most important thing is these trenches this offseason, getting them fixed, getting them right. Let me know you guys' thoughts, man, in the comments below. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. I'm going to get up out of here. Just want to get on here so that we had something for the morning. The Caleb Williams stuff came out, so I wanted to talk about that. Let me know you guys' thoughts on the Caleb Williams conversation, on him talking about the head coach that he wants, revealing his ideal head coach and how it sounds an awful lot like Ben Johnson. He might as well have been like, really, really a big fan of, a Detroit kind of offensive play caller who leads the NFL in play calling and just is the number one name on the list. I would love to have a guy like that, but however the Bears want to go about it. I think that he sent the message to the Bears, and I hope that they hear it. Let me know you guys' thoughts on Caleb Williams' comments. Do you think that he was talking about Ben Johnson? Do you think he was talking about somebody else in that conversation that he can grow with for 15, 16, 17 years? Also, let me know your thoughts on Keenan Allen. Should the Chicago Bears bring back Keenan Allen? I'll be down in the comments talking with you guys as well. We'll be back for the Daily Show today. And, of course, Chicago Bears podcast today. So tap in with us over there. It's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. One love. Peace.